Hello and welcome to this week's Chatty Corner. There wasn't one last week, I believe it was last week, because I just couldn't think of anything to add. Again, I think the big part of the lack of news over the last couple of weeks has been just because E3's on the horizon. E3's in fact this weekend and Monday, and then obviously next week is the main show itself. So we are going to be short on news for the past few weeks anyway, but we're kind of back on track this week, obviously, because this is pre-E3 week. We're getting a few announcements here and there that would make for some news. So, is there any updates that I want to give you? In terms of videos, it's mostly going to be Gravity Rush and Tomb Raider this month. You're still going to get some Ferrets Firsts, Mirror's Edge Catalyst. That's going up. But in terms of the PlayStation Plus selection, there is only 3 games that I'll be covering this month, because neither of the Vita games have an equivalent on one of the home consoles, and one of the other games, out of the remaining 4, is a game that I have played before, so therefore I won't be covering it, which is Gone Home. Because there's no point in me doing a first impressions video on Gone Home when I've already played Gone Home on Steam, so I won't be doing a video on that one. So it's mostly Tomb Raider and Gravity Rush for the next month, so you'll get the odd Ferrets First. I might do an extra one. I mentioned this on Patreon to patrons. I said I'm going to probably do a poll on Twitter, so keep an eye on that one, and I'll probably put that up sometime soon, between 2 games. I don't know which ones. I think I might know which ones, but I'll sort of double check my list and see like what would I most want to do. So that's what I'm going to do, I think, to sort of fill the gap that would be left. And yeah, that's everything in terms of updates. Everything's kind of ticking along nicely. I'm a little bit behind on recording Tomb Raider, but that'll be fine. We'll get that sorted within the next week or so. So that's everything on that front. Last week's comments, I think, is the sensible thing to look at. Okay, so of course last time we talked about the Mighty Number 9 trailer, which of course has become notorious on the internet at this point, with its you make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night. And of course, yeah. I did put up a blog sort of discussing the idea that a few people sort of expressed in the comments, which was that, oh, well, it was trying to go for a little bit of a cheesy 90s thing, and I kind of did my research and had a look at some cheesy 90s advertising and compared it to that, and I felt that it wasn't weird enough. It was too, sterile. It was too 2016 corporate, essentially. And from what I'm hearing, this is something I only heard after I recorded the last Chatty Corner, the developers actually really, really, really hated the trailer as well. That was not what they wanted at all. So I think last time I blamed Keiji Inafune and all that, but I have to sort of clarify, it seems that he and his team were not responsible for this. It was Deep Silver who were publishing the game, and it was them that did it, and it was a colossal misstep on their front, it looks like. I mean, if you go and have a look at the blog, it does kind of talk a little bit about the sort of types of 90s advertising and 80s advertising, things like that, but a lot of it was weird. A lot of it was it was shipped out to, a lot of advertising in the 90s was shipped out to marketers who didn't know what video games were at that point. So it was just kind of like, oh, well, this is a thing aimed at kids, and kids like things that are rad, right? Because that's the thing, and yeah, and that's what ended up happening. Like, I found some actual Mega Man adverts. I found a Mega Man advert where it was like a guy with a briefcase walking through parts of the city, like being all covert and mysterious, and then someone spots him and he drops his briefcase, and these teenagers come along, and it's actually Mega Man 3 that's inside his briefcase, and this is the best part, it's followed by, just on screen, it just goes, Mega Man 3, it's out, and then the advert ends. I'm like, okay, thanks for telling me nothing about the game, but sure. I did post a version of that in the blog post. There's a link to my blog in the description of this video, as always, and go have a look at that. It's in amongst all the chronological challenge reviews. I do want to try and do like a column like that every week, but I didn't do one this week because I had other things to do this week. But next week there will be, it'll probably be a bit late. It won't be up on Monday like I want it to be, because Monday is the E3 conferences. So I will do on Tuesday an E3 impressions. Like every game covered at E3, I will offer my thoughts on those things. So that should be good, right? This should be interesting. But yeah, so there's a few people about the Mighty Number 9 trailer, because they were saying like, oh well, it's the 90s and all that, and it's like, well, no. And again, that Venn diagram of Mega Man fans and anime fans is going to have quite a big overlap, and maybe don't insult your fan base. I mean, to be fair, I've not really seen any sort of outrage from people, because, well, it's more just kind of, really? It's sort of a, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. So, yeah. So I don't think the defense that, oh, it's just trying to emulate the thing. It's like they didn't really look at what made those 90s adverts the way they were. And there was that was something as well. It's also on the blog post. I put a link to it. There's a Mega Man 10 advert that Capcom did, and it does completely emulate those 90s adverts, and it's amazing. It is so wonderful, and I'm just like, see, that's how you do it. You don't do it like Mighty Number 9 did with their thing. So if you want to see how it's actually done, go check out the blog that I wrote, and just, yeah, that's what's actually happening. We had a couple of things about the Uncharted 4 review debacle, if you will, and had Games in Wales, who had some interesting thoughts on the topic of game reviews. Okay, I'm going to read the comment. I understand why people have issues with the Washington Post. Their game reviews aren't really suited to the medium. They almost read like film reviews as opposed to game reviews, and yet somehow, even though the Washington Post doesn't have numerical scoring in their reviews, they apply on Metacritic. So subjectively, as opposed to numerically, bad reviews from a source who clearly don't have a good grasp on how games are reviewed and compared are bringing down games' overall score on the biggest, most commonly used review aggregate for games. Okay, so one part of this comment that I took issue with was the bit about subjectively as opposed to numerically. All reviews are subjective, and I think this is something that everyone forgets. All reviews are subjective. I see a lot of arguments of just like, yeah, but games are kind of, they're tech and art, so the tech side tends to be reviewed more objectively, but even then I would argue that it's still subjective, because the art side of it is such a big part of it. They're always going to reflect the prejudices and the sort of things that appeal to the author. They're never going to entirely reflect on what everyone will think. And this insidious idea that's come in lately that reviews have to be objective. No. Because they can't be by their very nature. It's always, my opinion when it comes to reviews is, don't trust one source. Don't just trust the Metacritic score. Don't just trust the scores in general. The scores are kind of a good sort of baseline to kind of go, oh, okay. But then just try and pay attention to what's going on in the review as well. I have at least 3 different sites that I would check for reviews. Above all else, the reviews that I trust the most would be Eurogamer, Destructoid, and Jim Sterling stuff. I don't really necessarily trust IGN, for instance. I just don't like, I find them a little bit kind of like, yeah, aren't all games great? Everything gets at least an 8 out of 10. And I don't like that. And I just I feel that kind of makes the medium feel a little bit crap. But I trust those other sites a little bit more. Doesn't mean that I trust them implicitly. Doesn't mean that I'm just like, oh, well, that person said that game's crap, I'm not going to touch it, or, whatever. or get angry if they've had a different opinion. I use it as a guide because that's what reviews are. They're a guide. Obviously, most reviewers do have an idea of like, what does the general audience think, rather than necessarily just going, this is my opinion. But it's still subjective. It's still coming from a place of different people with different tastes and that kind of thing. So I think the idea of like referring, I get what you're saying though, when you use the word subjectively as opposed to numerically. Because the point that I do agree with in that comment is that the Washington Post review of Uncharted 4 really shouldn't have been put on Metacritic because it didn't have a score. Metacritic just assigned a score based on just a review that didn't have a score. Eurogamer's reviews aren't on Metacritic because they don't have a score, and because they recently changed their review system so that people would focus on the words rather than the score, and that was their decision. And then obviously they put a thing up to say like, oh, this is recommended or this is essential, or avoid this if they feel that it's like a little award they give it rather than a score. And again, the next part of the comment was the whole problem with review scores is that like 8 being too low or 7 being too low, or that's a bad game. It is a problem of it's just a problem with gaming culture and gaming review culture, and I think this is a fault of the hype culture as well, which kind of almost plays the idea that everything has to be amazing and revolutionary or the worst thing ever made. Like, there's no grey areas, there's no, well, it's alright, but it's got some flaws. There's no, it's not great, but it has a few decent moments. You know, that's what a 10-point score is supposed to indicate, but unfortunately it doesn't. And so but I think the big thing with the Uncharted thing that really got me about the Washington Post especially was that because it's an aggregate, it obviously creates a sort of average score based on the scores that everything else has got. If a game has got consistently reviews that are sort of 8 to 10 out of 10, then one review that's a 4 isn't really going to adjust the score too much, because it's not, because I think that they do collect it together on basis that like the more reviews of a certain score, the more skewed towards that score it will be. So it won't be like it's suddenly a 6 because one site gave it a 4 because everything else has given it a 9, and that's kind of that weight of all the 9s and the 8s keeps it in the 9 section, because that's where it is. It's got something like 94% on Metacritic in Uncharted 4, and I don't see what the fuss is about one review, because what's the difference between a 95 and a 94? Like, surely they're still, like, amazing games, right? I don't know. Reviews are a weird one, and I think gamers culturally need to start being a bit more mature about it. Start paying attention to the words of the review. They kind of explain what's good, what's bad, and rather than kind of adopting this sort of everything has to be a hive mind mentality, just sort of accept that some reviewers you're probably never going to gel with, some reviewers you're not going to fully agree with, but just read what they're saying about it and see like what they've classed as a flaw, if that's something you would class as a flaw as such. Like, for instance, a lot of people complain about Star Fox Zero and its control scheme. I didn't really have a problem with the control scheme. It was more just I didn't really see the point of having both screens being used for it. It just felt a bit rubbish. But I didn't have a problem with the controls in and of themselves, so, it's a weird one. Oh, Games in Wales also contributed some stuff about Final Fantasy 15, so did Winter Soldier. Both of them kind of offering the idea that they might get 15. They're kind of interested in it. And the idea that, the sort of idea that the traditional RPG gameplay and everything was not sort of the main draw. A lot of the big draw of a lot of JRPGs is the story, which is true, absolutely. But on that logic, that's pretty much exactly why I'm like, yeah, on Final Fantasy right now, because, as I said in my response, Final Fantasy 12 was a 50-hour political treaty discussion, and 13 was flashy garbage. So I don't have high hopes for 15. Obviously, if it gets glowing reviews and lots of people are saying that it's great and the story's great and everything, I will certainly give it a go, but I'm certainly not queuing up day one to play it. What else do we have? Oh, there was the Winter Soldier did put forth the idea that he interpreted the Final Fantasy director's words as meaning, no matter what we do, people are going to say we're ruining the series, so we're just going to do what we want, which is a good attitude. I will agree with that. Yeah, it was badly worded. I wonder if it's like a translation issue, because that does happen sometimes with Japanese developers, of course. I mean, certainly if he's developing it from a position of like, we're just going to make what we feel is right, then I feel that that's good, because chances are it's going to turn out well, because I'm always of the opinion if a developer believes in what they're doing, then it tends to make a better game. Obviously, it applies to any creative work. If an author, a musician, a filmmaker believes in what they're doing, and obviously has the technical skill behind them to back it up, then it tends to be a better product, because, they believe in it, they care about it, and they want to make sure it's good. So that attitude, I could certainly, and if you interpret it that way, I can certainly get behind that opinion. I mean, moving on to what I've been playing, I have been playing Final Fantasy IX, which for years I've sort of said is my favourite Final Fantasy, but I could never remember certain specifics of it. I could remember little bits and pieces of it, but not like the whole thing. So I'm playing through it now. I'm not trying to do 100%, because I tried looking up all the side quests and stuff, and get tons of conflicting information about what would be classified as 100%. And I just went, you know what? I'm just going to revisit it. I'm just going to play it through normally, just from start to end, just to mostly re-experience the story. And it's my favourite Final Fantasy. I can confirm this. So I love the plot, I love the characters, I love the environments, I just love the designs and everything. And the battle system is the sort of more basic Final Fantasy stuff, but it works. It's solid. It's not weird like Final Fantasy VIII's, and it doesn't play itself like Final Fantasy 13. And I like it. I think it's a nice, fun JRPG, and it is my favourite of the series. And then my second favourite is 10-2. So take that as you will. And for those of you who are thinking, like, why is that one your second favourite? That's weird. That one's terrible. It's got one of the best battle systems of the series, and it was one of the most fun to play. Like, I loved 10-2 as a game. Yeah, the story was silly, but if you kind of just accept that it's just a silly Charlie's Angels thing set in the Final Fantasy X universe, then you just accept it, whatever it throws at you. And that's my opinion, and it's my second favourite because it's not afraid to have fun, and I had a blast playing it. But 9 is the actual favourite, because I feel bad about putting 10-2 as the favourite, because I'm just like, yeah, but Final Fantasy 9 is a proper Final Fantasy. And again, I think, sort of coming into this whole idea of what constitutes a Final Fantasy, like the first 10 absolutely are, 10-2 absolutely is, despite what some people say. Its entire battle system is based around job classes. So, that kind of does it. But I can see a progression from like the first 5 into 6, into 7, into 8, and then 9 obviously reflected a lot of the old ones. But then you can see from 10 that built on 8 kind of thing. But then 11 just was like, here's an MMO. And then 12 was like, here's an MMO, but it's offline. And then 13 was like, oh, we made a really pretty tech demo, but we need to add something to it. And then 14 was another MMO. So, and then 15 was, oh, this was originally a Kingdom Hearts gameplay styled spin-off, and now it's one of the main series. It's like, what the hell is going on? Like, the series just has no idea what it's doing anymore. But yeah, so all that stuff about Final Fantasy. I think that kind of covers a lot of what was said last week, last time, I should say. What else have been playing? I've also been playing Mirror's Edge. You could see my first impressions of that going up sort of over the next... First part went up yesterday, and then we're getting more parts over the next couple of days. Can't tell you how many parts as I record this, because I haven't finished editing it. That's why I only uploaded the first 20 minutes or so. So I was like, I want to get something up, but I'm just tired. I don't feel like editing all of this. I'll do it tomorrow. So, which is tomorrow as I record this, but it should be today when this goes up. And you should get the next part of it, and then I'll have it going up over days. And the first part will change the name to reflect what part it is, how many parts there are once I've finished editing it. So I just wanted to get out the first 20 minutes or so that you have something on release day, even if it did go up quite late, but never mind. So I've been playing a bit more of Mirror's Edge after that, of course. I touched on this a little bit earlier, was I could see where some of the complaints are coming in, like the open world elements. They have put in some of the kind of usual open world bullshit that you usually get of just like, oh, there's a guy over there and he wants you to just deliver a package to someone for no reason. And there's like little glowy things that you can pick up and you've got to catch them all. And there's like audio files in places, all that kind of stuff's going on. But it still feels like Mirror's Edge, and there are moments when sort of running between missions and stuff. And this doesn't happen with open world games, where I actually do feel sort of like I'm a part of the world. As such, I never feel that with open world games. I always feel like, Jesus Christ, can I just have a level system? Why have I got to trek halfway across the world to do the thing? But with Mirror's Edge, the traversing is the game. It is the central mechanic of the game, and that's why moving across this big open world is more fun than a lot of open world games, in my opinion. Just because you can alter how you approach things, which was the big complaint about the first game, was that you really had one route to go, and you had just a prescribed set of obstacles to go across. This one, you've got more choices. So I think, that's yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's my opinion of it. There are some things that annoy me, like there are certain missions which gain the attention of like the bad guys, and you have to escape, sort of like Grand Theft Auto and its wanted system. But I can't. I hate some of those bits. The combat is a little bit better. You'll see this in the first stuff, how I feel about the combat, and that still holds true. It does get a little bit repetitive, having played a bit more of it, but I've seen a lot of complaints about the story, but this is a lot better than the story in the first game, which you had my main problem with the first game. I wasn't really bothered by its linearity. I'm fine with linear games as long as they're fun. I mean, Uncharted is an example of this. But I think the big thing that I didn't really like about Mirror's Edge, and I wanted to like a lot more, was just the story. We had this whole sort of dystopian society, but we're really kind of just told that it's dystopian. We're told, they keep people enslaved, but we don't see any evidence of this. We just see them chasing after Faith, who, as far as they're concerned, is a criminal. I mean, she's framed for murder, but also there's the whole sort of shady aspect of what the runners do. Like, are they spreading illegal information around and that kind of thing? So you're just like, well, you might actually just be on the wrong side of the law. That's not to say that, there's obviously political arguments to be made there about the nature of what is illegal and what isn't, of course, but we're not getting into... Again, the game doesn't really touch on any of that. It just kind of like the levels themselves, goes from point A to point B, and then everything else is kind of extraneous. Whereas Catalyst is definitely pulling in a lot more elements to kind of go, no, this society is really, really fucked up. So that's that's good. I'm welcoming that. I'm all over that. Like, we get a little bit more background as to who Faith is, where she came from, what her background is, because we know about the November riots, which are sort of vaguely mentioned in the first game, but they're getting a lot more fleshed out in this one. So the people say that, like, oh, this is a reboot. And I'm like, is it though? Because it feels like a prequel. It mentions a lot of the same stuff that with Faith's background that was in there. Although I've got to admit, I was a little bit weirded out by the fact that her sister is now called Kat, which isn't that far from Kate, but it's still weird. I mean, it's still probably just Catherine either way, but I'm just like, okay. But no, I'm liking it a lot more than the critics seem to like it. So, but I will say that it's good if you liked the first game, but wanted a bit more exploration, and can kind of put up with a little bit of open world bollocks. You know, if you can kind of put up with some of that stuff, and you were really here for the parkour mechanics above all else, then you might enjoy this one, because there's a lot of good stuff in it. I think the mechanics are solid. They're absolutely solid. It plays like a slightly tweaked version of the original game, and I approve. And that's all I wanted. That's all I fundamentally wanted, was a game that had a little bit more exploration and handled a little bit better. Not that I necessarily have a problem with Mirror's Edge's controls, they were great, but I think that just having a few little tweaks to it to just make it a little bit more enjoyable, and they've done that. So they've done exactly what I wanted them to do. It's not perfect, and it's not my game of the year. That's still Uncharted 4 at this point. I don't see that being shifted unless something really, really big comes out. But it's probably up there. It's probably like probably third, yeah. Probably third place at this point. I will certainly do like a Games of 2016 thing at the end of the year. But, yeah, Mirror's Edge Catalyst is a good game. But again, I think it depends on what you're looking for, really. I don't think it's going to appeal to fans of traditional open world games, though, because, again, fundamentally, it's not just about losing yourself in a world. It's about the parkour. It's about the jumping and running and all that, and that is central above all else. So, and the world isn't necessarily like, oh, there's so many things to do and things to see. You know, it's just a big open space which you run around in, and that's the point. So, and I think some reviewers may have marked it down on that because they were viewing it in the same vein as other open world games. Does that make sense? But I don't know. But I've not played much of it, but it could get really bad later, and that could be what the reviewers were all about, so we shall see. So what's been going on elsewhere within the games industry? Well, No Man's Sky was delayed, surprising nobody, and then it was leaked that it was going to be delayed, and then people sent death threats to the journalist who revealed that, and then when it was revealed that yes, it is indeed delayed, then those, instead of going, oh well, we're really sorry, we take it all back, they just moved all their death threats to the developer. Can we stop sending death threats? Can we stop it? Can we just stop? Stop right now. Don't say. I mean, I'm saying this to you guys, and yet I don't believe for a second that any of you would send death threats. But it happens, and it makes me sad because it makes us all look bad, and we should all call it out wherever it happens. Basically, like, dude, don't do that. Just calm down a little bit. It's like 2 months delay or something like that. I think you can live with that. You know, I'm currently playing a game that was delayed by 4 months, and I could wait 4 months. I mean, it kind of screwed up my plan a little bit, because the whole point of doing the Mirror's Edge LP originally was to kind of have the LP run up to kind of the release date, and then the release date got pushed back, so there was this huge gap. But never mind. But it's not the only thing that's been delayed. There are 2 games that I've been looking forward to towards the end of this year that are not coming out this year. It's kind of 3 actually now, but one of those is more just it's been delayed in the West. So we've got Ukulele, which of course I helped back that game, donated some money to that campaign because I just want to see more fun, colourful games on the market, and I was like, yep, I want to see this Banjo-Kazooie successor succeed, and it has succeeded, and what they've shown, to be honest, I watched the trailer that they sent out, because obviously I get emails from them to say like, hey, here's our updates. Obviously, the trailers have been made public, but I saw it through the email, and I watched it and was just like, this has been delayed for like 3 months. You sure? Because this looks like it's getting close to being finished. But hey, that's fine by me. If it looks like it's doing pretty well right now, and it's being delayed a few more months to tweak it and make it even better, then hell yeah, sure. I'm fine with that. It's not a Mighty Number 9 situation where the game looks a bit ropey, and it definitely looks so much fun. It looks really cute and it looks really fun, and I'm looking forward to playing that. But it's going to be in early 2017 at this point. We've also got Horizon Zero Dawn, which is that sort of big exploratory robo-dinosaur thing that may or may not be just Monster Hunter, but sci-fi. I'm looking forward to that one. It's the first time in history that I've actually said I'm looking forward to that new game from Guerrilla. But yeah, it's been delayed to February, which is unfortunate. But again, with that one, I'm not really surprised because it does look really ambitious, and it does look very, very much like it's gonna. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets delayed again. To be honest, we get to February and it's suddenly May, so it happens. It happens. That's fine. And the other thing that got delayed was Persona 5. I had to think what number it was for some reason, and it's definitely 5. Yes. 4 is the one I've played, yes. That was listed as having like a 2016 release date. Saying that one's delayed is a little bit thick because it's still coming out in Japan this year, and there was just no Western release date. It's coming out in the US on Valentine's Day now. No European release date has been announced, and Atlus are very sort of meh. They've got nothing to talk about with the European release. I'm just like, really? You're owned by Sega. Surely Sega can publish it in Europe. I can't see why that would be an issue. But hopefully, though, if it doesn't get released in Europe, hopefully Atlus won't pull what they did with Persona 4 Arena and region lock it. Because if they don't region lock it and they leave it just as it is, then you could just import it from the US. It's not that big a deal. Which would be what I would do. Because I've got a few games which I bought while I was in America, here and there, and they work just fine. This is like PS3 games, obviously, but PS4 is also not region locked, so that one's not as big a deal. But it's still kind of like, well, all right. It sucks, but it's also just like, well, at least it's not. At least it could be worse. It could be, if it gets region locked, then that's it getting worse. But hopefully Atlus don't do that. But we'll see. So, I don't even know what I'm looking forward to for the rest of this year. If Gravity Rush 2 gets delayed to next year, then that's nothing. I don't think there's anything coming out this year that I'm actually excited for after that. So, there's Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but that's more of a curiosity. That's more something like that I'm curious, I would play this, but I'm not going out of my way to play this. Insomniac have got their Song of the Deep thing coming out in July, I believe. But that's all I can really think of, unless something gets announced or revealed or whatever at E3. I don't know. I can't think. Hopefully Rise of the Tomb Raider will have a PS4 release by the end of the year. So there's that one, I suppose. But we'll see what else. But I can't think of much else. So if nothing else really comes out, then I can announce it right now that Uncharted 4 is my game of the year. Because if nothing else really comes out for the next 6 months, then I'm just like, well, there you go. It's already got it. Yeah. But E3 is next week. I could do some predictions of things. I might do that in a little bit, but I'll run through them very quickly rather than going in depth. Watch Dogs 2 has been revealed, and it's Watch Dogs in it. It looks like they've ditched Aiden. I never played Watch Dogs, but I did watch Chip and Ironicus' LP of it, because I was very much on the fence, because it got very mixed reception from a lot of people, and there was all the controversy about, it looks nowhere near as good as the actual, as the sort of initial things said it was. And after watching Chip and Ironicus' LP, I was like, yep, I'm absolutely not going to play this, because this is terrible. This just looks terrible. Every aspect of this just looks bad. So I'm not going to play it. Sorry. And it was a shame, because it's a game that did sort of appeal to me on its announcement. You know, I'm all about games that allow you to go up against the man and take down totalitarian governments and corporations and things like that. It's my sort of political views, almost, in a video game. That's why I like Mirror's Edge. It's but with that, I was just like, no. I watched that whole LP and I just didn't have a clue what was going on, because the plot was so bad. It was like 4 different plots just all kind of glued awkwardly together in a way that didn't make sense. And then you had his wife's sister, which was just, and Aiden was just not a likable character. Watch Dogs 2 potentially could be better. I mean, from what I've seen, well, for a start, they've ditched Aiden completely, which is good, because no one liked him. Been some controversy over the fact that it's a black guy, but if you think that that's something controversial, then get into the 21st century already, and diversity is fine. There are plenty of games with white male protagonists who are out for revenge. So if you only want to play those games, there's still plenty of those out there for you, but just know that you're incredibly boring for only playing those games. If you play those games, plus other things, and are open to playing a wide variety of games, including games about white men who are out for revenge, then you're not boring. It just means that it's fine. But it's the people who are angry that there's a black protagonist for Watch Dogs 2. I don't see what the problem is. It's a new protagonist, and I don't know, it just seems fine. I don't see anything wrong with it. But yeah, so it's definitely one to watch. But again, it's another one to kind of go, let's hope they actually have learnt their lesson from the first game. So, but it's Ubisoft, so we don't know. So yeah, some E3 predictions. What have we got? We've got the various different things. At EA's conference is the first one, because they're doing their own separate thing. It's like they're doing their own E3 with blackjack and hookers, and they're doing, I don't know what are we going to see. We're probably going to see some more of that new Mass Effect. I'm not really big on Mass Effect, but we're probably going to see some more of that, I reckon. I don't even know. Battlefield 1 will be theirs as well. I don't know, what else? Is there anything that I particularly would be interested in? Mirror's Edge just came out, so nothing really springs to mind. If they can do a proper Dead Space again, that'd be nice, but, and I do mean one that was like the first game, not like the last game. So, let's see what happens there. Or maybe they'll surprise us again like they did with Unravel, which is adorable. Bethesda's conference, predictions there are likely to be probably going to get some more stuff about Dishonored 2. There's been rumours about Wolfenstein 2, and I'm not really big on Bethesda games in general, so I'm just kind of like, whatever. But Dishonored 2 is probably the thing that I'm most interested in, even though I haven't played the first one. So, whoops. Microsoft stuff is probably gonna be TV and sports. No, at least we're probably gonna find out some more about this supposed upgraded Xbox One that they're talking about. So we'll probably get a bit of that going on. I don't really know. I'm not really sort of big on Microsoft, as you know, so I'm just like, nah, 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 nah. Then we got the PC gaming show, which, of course, Half-Life 3 is going to get announced. I think we all agree on that one, right? I don't know. From what I heard last year, the PC gaming show was just god awful. So, mm, mm. Then we got Ubisoft. Ubisoft are going to probably have a lot of stuff on Watch Dogs 2, unsurprisingly. I wonder if they'll have like something about the Assassin's Creed film, because they're obviously not going to have anything about a game, because there isn't going to be a game this year, because they've confirmed. Just wondering what else Ubisoft could do. If they announce Beyond Good and Evil 2, then it will be a Christmas miracle. That's not going to happen though, is it? Sony. Ooh, Sony. This is the one where I'm probably the most... Obviously, we're going to probably see some more stuff about PlayStation VR, I guess. We're probably going to find out some more about this upgraded PS4, whatever. It's alright if you want a hardware upgrade, I guess, but it's probably not going to be that great. Maybe we'll see some stuff about The Last Guardian. Maybe we'll get a release date for The Last Guardian at long last. Some people have sort of said maybe we'll find out some more about The Last of Us 2. I'm like, Uncharted 4 just came out. I doubt we'll have anything like that. Hopefully we'll get some surprises from Sony. Maybe some more first-party stuff. Maybe Gravity Rush 2. Maybe get a bit more info on when that's likely to be coming out. That's just me, though, wondering that one. There's been rumours about God of War 4, hasn't there? Which is a weird one, because it's apparently going to be Kratos mixed with Norse mythology, which is interesting, because like Norse mythology and Greek mythology existed at different parts of history. So I'd be fine with a God of War game that's sort of the same concept, but it was entirely Norse, so you like controlled a new character who's part of the Norse mythology, but it sort of follows a similar sort of themes to God of War. But putting Kratos in it just feels like, good, because I hate Kratos. I think he's a dumb character, and that's why most of my video on him was just making fun of him, because just whole thing. I liked when Jim Sterling and crew talked about this on the Podquisition, and his whole thing about Kratos is he's just going to be running around going, "Yeah, my family's still dead," and I think that sums it up quite nicely, because that is Kratos. That is his entire personality wrapped up in one sentence. I don't know what else we'll get out of Sony. Again, I'm hoping that we'll see some more first-party stuff from them. So, we'll see. And then there's the Nintendo stuff, but I don't care about that, because it's just going to be a live stream. I thought Square Enix were doing a conference, but apparently they're not. So I don't know where I got that idea from. But Square Enix did say that they're going to be revealing a whole bunch of stuff at E3, so I don't know what's going on there. But never mind. Maybe there's just going to be a whole bunch of Square Enix stuff at Sony's conference, because I know that we've got... Obviously there'll be some stuff about Final Fantasy 15, maybe some Kingdom Hearts 3, hopefully a PS4 release of Rise of the Tomb Raider. Please. An actual release date for that, please. Not just, yeah, it's coming out eventually. Just give me stuff. Give me a date. Anyway, this has run on for far too long. I've already got a ton of Mirror's Edge stuff to edit, and I've got to edit all this again, so tomorrow's going to be fun. Well, today is going to be fun when this goes up. So, thank you for listening. Let me know any comments you've got, and I will see you next week. And I will see you next week, because I will do an E3 special, of course. I'll do a sort of brief blog post on my opinions, and then I'll probably go a little bit more in depth on the things that I'm most interested in the Chatty Corner next week. So, as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for continuing to enjoy the channel. You're all lovely. You're all great. And I hope that you have a good day and you have a good week, and that you just have a lot of fun, and I'll see you around. Bye.